first meaningful trade happened on the 22nd of February. And that was the Vegas Golden Knights trading Shea Weber. Now, why is that important? Well, that really kickstarted all the other trades. So one of the things that was an issue this year for quite a lot of teams in the NHL is they actually had too much cap space. Vegas Golden Knight fans are saying, what's that, Ian? I've never heard of too much cap space.
Right.
What is this weird thing you're talking about? Where you're looking at the cap floor rather than the ceiling and saying, wow, how am I going to hit the 60 million and not get pinged? So if you actually have a look at the Arizona Coyotes contracts on Cap Friendly, if you're sad like I am, you'll see that Andrew Ladd and one of the other players, I think it's Brian Little, have both not been put on IR, even though neither player is playing. And the reason why they've not done that is because they don't want the cap relief that they're going to get by doing that. So they've actually left those players in their roster full well knowing that they're not going to play them or can't play them because they're actually injured. So the Shea Weber deal allowed them to free up a roster spot, but still retain a chunk of cap because it was $7.8 million was Shea Weber's annual contract. And a fifth-round pick, and then a player called, I presume it's pronounced Dyson.
I think so, yeah.
D-Y-S-I-N. Dyson Mayo, Excuse me, who, fifth-round draft pick back in 2014, hasn't exactly been killing it in the NHL, so I felt like it was just a case of getting somebody so it wasn't nothing, but yeah, whatever. Okay, but that started the kind of carousel. The next move was the big one. And that was on the 26th of February, so just after we finished recording. Surprise, surprise. And that involved Zach Dean, who obviously was a Vegas first-round draft choice, so Vegas have continued their cycle of trading first-round draft picks. So this was drafted 30th overall, it is worth pointing out, in the 2021 draft. And they got back Ivan Barbashev. And I'm going to pause there to get your thoughts on that trade, JP, but it is a Vegas thing now to always trade your first round. Like, if you ever get drafted by Vegas, make sure you get drafted in the second round because you've got a chance of staying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they definitely go all in, don't they? When the trade happened, I felt pretty good about it. I think the price was about right. I don't think they. I think it depends, and I think I've read that you said this as well on the Krakin Knights Twitter feed. I think I saw you say something similar, which is it could be a little bit of an overpay if they don't re-sign him. If it's just a rental, then maybe it's a bit much for a rental. My feeling is they're going to try to re-sign him. I think. I think they're going to try to keep him on the team, and now that he's played 3 games. The trade looks really good so far. Now, his first game with the team was the spanking by the Avalanche, the 3-0, shutout, and that was just an off game for the team. But I think he's got 3 points now over 3 games.
Correct,
and they've got him on the first line with Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel, and let me tell you, the 3 of them together are working out. It's I really only got to see them work together well for 2 games. Avalanche was kind of him just settling in the game against the Avalanche, but watching it firsthand, the 3 of them work very well together. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that line has been responsible for the majority of the production. And Eichel scoring, Marchessault scoring, Barbashev is getting assists. He's gritty. The team is lacking in that. We don't have as many gritty players as the team used to, and he likes to cause chaos in the blue paint. It looks really good right now. It looks like a really good trade to me.
I agree.
It's always going to be in hindsight, right? Ask me again 3 months down the road and we'll see. But right now, it looks like a great deal.
Yeah. I think he gives you, he's not Mark Stone. Okay. Before people take what I'm about to say the wrong way, he's not Mark Stone.
No.
He gives you some of what Mark Stone gave the Vegas Golden Knights. Some of what you've lost has come back with Barbashev because of his strength, because of his, he's on the, I don't know whether he's that active on the power play, but he's the sort of player that you can imagine being a feature in that if he isn't already. especially in games when you're looking for that greasy goal and you need somebody who's just going to be a pain in the backside, in front of the goalie, like you said, in the blue paint, causing trouble, big body, hard to move. This is a point scorer. You know, I mean, like, okay, this season, while he's been with the Blues, he scored 29 points in 60 games. That's a point every other game. It's not bad for a top six forward. Season before that, he had 60 points in 81 games. You know, 26 goals as well for a player that's seen as a guy who hits, not a guy who's particularly skilled, although I do believe that he is. So I could see that working. I think for me, and I stand by what I said on Twitter, the overpay will be if he goes. He's on a very low salary right now. He's on 1.4 million, I believe. No, sorry, that was his previous contract, 2.25 million. So just over 2.2 million for 2 years, which finishes this year now. So can you get him again on a £2 million deal? Probably not. Yeah. Will you be able to afford him? I guess we're going to see what happens with Mark Stone. Does Mark Stone come back? What happens with Robin Leonard? Does Robin Leonard come back? The cap situation of Vegas is very, very, very flexible.
It's fluid right now.
Based on a couple of things. Yeah. But I think, and look, it all comes down to have you got a better chance of winning this Stanley Cup with him? If I get my teeth to stay in just for a bit. Like, can you win the Stanley Cup with him? I think you're better placed to do so. There's a really good interview with Bill Guerin, who's the Minnesota Wild GM on 32 Thoughts. And he talks about having a team that's built for all different situations in the playoffs. And I think that's what Vegas need to do. If they're going to meet the San Jose Sharks in the first, they're not going to meet the San Jose Sharks. If they're going to meet the LA Kings in the first round, that might actually happen. The San Jose Sharks, not likely.
Probably not.
Probably not. Not this year anyway. But if they meet the LA Kings, we know what the LA Kings game is like. We know they're going to play hard. They're going to play very defensive-minded, even though I don't want to say that they don't attack. They do, but they like to shut the neutral zone down. You need a player like him could be a difference maker. So I like the move, and I don't feel like it was a massive overpay. And when you look at some of the other trades we're going to talk about later, the Timo Meier trade, for example, or even the John Klingberg trade. Okay, yes, you had to give up a potential first round. He wasn't a potential first round. He was a first round pick, but a potential top six player. Right. But with the greatest respect to Zach Dean, he is still just potential. He is potential. And look, he's played okay this season. Up until I think he was injured. But regardless, he's not exactly the finished article. We see players like Peyton Krebs and others that we've lost over the years. Sometimes when you're in win now mode, you can't worry about whether or not someone's going to become a superstar in 6 years' time, because that's too late. You've got to go for it now. So I felt like that was a good move. The next move, though, and it just kept like topping and topping and topping. So Teddy Blueger was the next move. Third round pick, went back to Pittsburgh, and I believe a defenseman. I'll horrendously pronounce his name here. I know his first name is easy. It's Peter. Is it Deliberatore?
Deliberatore, yeah.
So what a name that is, by the way. It's absolutely lovely.
It's a mouthful, yeah.
Like the back of his jersey must be crazy. But this is a guy who's
fit the letters.
Played in the AHL, not done that much in the AHL, also played in the ECHL. I think that may have actually been where he was before he was traded. I'm not sure he was actually with the Silver Knights before he moved, but not a massive amount to give up. And again, what I like about Teddy Blueger is he's that bottom six guy. He's a good, he could be good. He's got a lot of playoff experience because he's been to the Pittsburgh and they have the tendency to make the playoffs. And he's got 10 points this season. Not killing it, but I felt like it was a good depth for a move. The sort of thing I thought the Seattle Kraken would do, but more on that later. And then the final move, and this was the move where I kind of got up in the morning, flicked open my apps to see what had gone on, and I saw this move, and I was like, "Wow, I like that. That I like." And that was the Jonathan Quick trade. They gave up. Let's be honest, and I don't mean any disrespect to Michael Hutchinson, but they gave up nothing. Okay, they gave up Michael Hutchinson, who is a backup goalie to a backup, right? He's not even a number two. And a 7th rounder, which is ultimately a pick that's worth absolutely nothing, and to get a Stanley Cup winning goalie, even if he doesn't play every game, having someone like him in the locker room is worth its weight in gold. Absolutely worth its weight in gold. And I know he's not had a great season in comparison to last year, which was a bit of a rejuvenation to his career. But I just think having that experience, having that mental toughness that Jonathan Quick has for some of the younger guys, people like Aiden Hill, who it may fall on in terms of the playoffs, depending what happens with Thompson. I like it a lot.
Agreed. And I think it's important for fans of the team to understand that this is not acquiring legendary goalkeeper Jonathan Quick. This is not a star goalie acquisition now. Does he have that in his history? Absolutely. He has been he's had an incredible career. One of the greats for sure. This was not an acquisition. They didn't pick him up to get that goalie because that goalie doesn't exist anymore. This was a low cost, low risk insurance move. I mean, because the goaltending depth chart has been decimated with Brossoit going out again and Thompson's still out. And so, it was a great move. It didn't cost him much. And let's face it, Jonathan Quick is going to be extra motivated. He's going to find a little extra fire for sure because he was not happy about being traded. It's the only team he's ever played for in the NHL. He spent his entire career and he did not see it coming, according to him. And then as many of you know, or if any of our listeners don't, he was initially traded to the Blue Jackets, right? And then they immediately flipped him to Vegas. But a lot of that came down to Quick didn't want to play for the Blue Jackets. That's the impression I got. It sounds like he called the GM of the Blue Jackets and basically said, look, no offense, this isn't where I want to be. And I'm sure acquiring Quick wasn't the Blue Jackets' primary goal either necessarily. It was moving Korpisalo and getting some value there or something. But anyway, it's bizarre the way it went down, and it was a whirlwind 24 hours. He didn't even go to Columbus, right? So then he's in Vegas 24 hours later, and he's now he's going to have a little bit of fire in his belly about that. In the same way that the entire first-year team did, he's been let go from the team that he gave most of his career to. And so he's a misfit now, which fits in perfectly here. He is a misfit. And so I think we may be surprised what we see out of Jonathan. I mean, that's just my prediction. I think there's probably some good performances that are going to come out of that guy simply because of the circumstances, the drama. It's going to be one of the most watched stories in the entire league. The first time, and it's happened. It starts tomorrow. He's starting against Montreal tomorrow afternoon. Like he's because Hill has been working his butt off. So Hill needs a break after, especially after the game he played last night. I'm sure he's pretty sore because I think New Jersey put 49 shots on the board or something like that. He stopped all but 3 of them. But anyway, I think the Quick trade is fantastic. I think it was a smart insurance move, and I think he brings more to the table than just his save percentage and his numbers, which, as you said, have not been great. But a change of scene can do a lot for people. I mean, look at what happened with Marc-Andre Fleury. Remember, Marc-Andre Fleury was kind of on the decline. Things weren't going well. Leonard comes in, totally changed Fleury's attitude, and then he has a Vezina winning season. So I wouldn't write off Quick just yet, is my feeling on the whole thing.
And touche with him being a misfit, by the way, mate. That's a very, very good point for a start. Imagine now, right? So it's LA Kings, Vegas, first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You are starting Jonathan Quick. I tell you that now. As good as Aiden Hill or Thompson could be at that point, if you're Cassidy, you're turning around to Quick and saying, how much do you want to put it to the guys? Okay, you've got teammates, friends that are still going to be on that team. But there'll be a bit of resentment. Like he was Jonathan Quick pretty much came out and said, I did not want this trade.
He's not happy about it. He's professional.
Now, the reality is he was, unfortunately, as much as he may annoy him even more, he was a cap shed. It's what he was. I mean, they got back Jonathan Quick, but what they really wanted was the first round pick. That's what they wanted, you know?
Yeah. So they were happy to flip him. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a conditional first round pick on the basis that the Kings qualify for the 2023, obviously this year, the playoffs, which I think they probably will. But
very likely.
Kings wanted Korpisalo and they wanted Gavrikov. That's what they wanted. Right. They wanted the goalies. They need to sort the goalie situation out in LA because Cal Peterson was going to be the savior, and he's proven not to be that. You know, they can't put everything on. I can't even think who their other goalie is right now, but they can't put everything on as Copley, I think it is, who's their other goalie. Yeah, Phoenix Copley. But they can't put their future on him. So it makes sense for both sides. And what a great result for Vegas to be able to pick someone up like that. And, you know, so amazing. For me, that summed up the whole window, which I just thought, tick, tick, tick. You know, would it have been nice for them to gone out and got like a superstar, like a Timo Meyer or a Patrick Kane probably. But I just think realistically, the gymnastics just don't work for that. Yeah. They just don't have the cap room, even with the Mark Stone LTIR boost.
And one of the things you have to remember about trades, I think a lot of fans think like that when teams are adding at the deadline or in the off season, that it's just go out and get the biggest player that you can get. It's about plugging in to places of need in the lineup. And the Golden Knights have always been really good at doing that. And that's exactly what they did this time. They chose players based on very specific needs, and they're filling those needs. And I got to say, just really quickly, I think Teddy Blueger is a very intriguing player. I think that's a really intriguing pickup. If you look back at his career, he doesn't have a lot of production, but I think in the NHL, but I think that has to do with how he's being used. He was a bit of a goal scorer, apparently, in his earlier career, minors, college, that kind of thing. He's been compared by a lot of people to Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who was a fan favorite in Vegas. Gritty, fast, great character guy. He's a fascinating dude, too. Like, I watched an interview with him. Apparently, he's a native of Riga, Latvia. He speaks like 4 languages, but he speaks English with 0 accent. Like, he just seems like a really interesting character to me, and he was very well spoken. In the interview that I saw when he first arrived in Vegas, they interviewed him in the locker room, and he makes a very strong impression just in the way he speaks. And so I could just feel that like he's a character guy, and I think he's gonna be surprising as well. I think it's another one of those kind of like Chandler Stevenson pickups, right? Where I'm not saying he's going to be a first or second line guy, but I think he has got a lot of value that wasn't being realized. And and I saw it firsthand. It was his first game the other night, and he is fast and physical and gritty, and they're kind of making up for Stone in the aggregate a little bit, which you and I talked about a bit. They're doing a bit of a money ball, and I think it's working so far. So, but good trade deadline for the Knights, in my opinion. I think they did well.